So the base is dropped on a Tuesday. It's Tuesday Thoughts here at Soccer Down here, and it is Jon here, Jarrett there. We'll get you through the hour of power, as I think the band might be getting back together on Wednesday, and so no Dylan Butler today, by the way. So we will be traversing the world of Major League Soccer and what happened this past weekend, all by our lonesome. And if anyone wants to chime in about anything, specifically our lead story that's going to be coming up in just a little bit, please do so as we are here during the taping. And once again, we'll be back up and running, understandably, hopefully, tomorrow. I am up in the mountains of Georgia celebrating the boss's birthday and belatedly mine. So that is why I am up here and Jarrett's back under normal circumstances. But before we bring in Jarrett, let's get into the opening kickoff, our morning kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffee.co. Don't forget to follow them on all of your social media platforms. And once again, thanks to everyone who has so far invested in Kickoff Coffee for your morning wake-ups, for those of you that choose coffee as your beverage of choice. Once again, you can go to Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Use the code SoccerDownHere15. Get 15% off your purchases. And just as a reminder, once again, 10% of all the proceeds go to help youth development when it comes to the sport of soccer. So very, very cool thing that they are doing. Very, very cool stuff at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. So what I decided to do this morning for the opening kickoff was discuss what has happened in other cities in Major League Soccer and the challenges that might come up. Yesterday, it was the official unveiling of Lorenzo Insigne in Toronto, with the pomp and circumstance already having occurred on Friday at an Italian restaurant, an Italian neighborhood. And then you see the pictures where it is wall-to-wall people on surface streets of the T-Dot welcoming Lorenzo Insigne and possibly Criscito. We haven't gotten to that point yet, considering what his initial response was when he was asked about it overseas. But yesterday was the unveiling of Insigne with Bill Manning. Bill Manning saying that, and Insigne saying in the press conference that he was looking for a challenge. And that is the hook in all of this. I think that Insigne and possibly Criscito might be in for a different challenge than what they anticipate, considering what we've seen from Toronto defensively at times this year. And you understand that Bill Manning, he says he's not done. When the window opens up on 7/7, he says 2, 3, possibly even 4 more additions for Toronto FC as they head toward the stretch run and try to get inside the playoff pictures. There are a couple of places out right now, but Bill Manning says he's not done. And once again, when you have the money of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment behind you, pretty much anything is possible within reason when it comes to the rules of engagement for Major League Soccer. So we'll keep that in mind as well. 3 o'clock this afternoon, Carlos Vela is set to have his press conference, unveiling one of the worst-kept secrets in Major League Soccer, that he is staying. And so you will now have Gareth Bale, you will now have Carlos Vela, and the attack at LAFC out west. So the questions now for Toronto FC, the questions now for LAFC. All of this sounds great when it comes to bringing in all of this impact. LAFC, can you stop folks? Are you going to be able to stop the ball from getting in the back of the net? And with a back line that's got a lot of folks possibly in rotation, you've got a keeper in Maxime Crépeau. Obviously, you are one of the teams that folks are going to be looking at in the West. In the East, it's a different story. You're bringing in 2 individuals in Insigne, possibly Criscito, who are over the age of 35. And with the shootouts that Toronto FC has gotten in this season, a lot of times, as we look at juice boxes, the over has been the safe play when you're looking at Toronto, and they've turned things absolutely crazy. So will Criscito possibly, and will Insigne help stem the tide defensively with the young talent? Because you've got a lot of high-priced talent. You've got a lot of young kids. There's no in-between, or there's very few that are in the in-between right now for Toronto. So as Toronto tries to make up ground, they'll be doing so with older talent. As LAFC tries to solidify their place in the West, they'll be doing so with older talent. So we'll see how it all works itself out. So press conference yesterday in Toronto, press conference 3 o'clock this afternoon in LA for LAFC. So that's your big stories out of the East and the West, and that is the opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget to follow along on all their social media platforms. So use the code SoccerDownHere15 to get a 15% off discount when you are helping out youth programs, because 10% of the proceeds go to help youth programs for the development of the sport of soccer. And that is the morning kickoff. No transitional element for music. I'm just going to bring Jarrett in. And so, Jarrett, when you look at the excitement yesterday, actually all the way back to, it was the weekend of excitement in Toronto with Insigne having been brought in and the world's worst kept secret in Major League Soccer happening at 3:00 this afternoon. When you look at LAFC and when you look at Toronto FC, what do you see going forward?
I see LAFC adding more weapons to a team that is going to be the odds-on favorite, I think, to win the cup. And with Toronto, I still see a team that's going to struggle to defend, but they're going to be fun. They're going to score. I think they still have some issues they have to get cleared up on the defensive side. But you're going to have to work on that. And it's Bob Bradley, man. It's always going to be a multi-year experience with Toronto, a multi-year project with Toronto, excuse me.
And it's going to be Bob's way or no way.
Yeah, and I want to see how it shapes out, how he builds it out beyond this kind of move. But yeah, for me, it's LAFC was already your kind of feeling like your favorite in it all. They still have their boogeyman is still Seattle. That's still going to be a thing until it's not in a playoff game. I don't know. I still am not sold on Chiellini.
Nope.
Because of the fact that he's just, I don't know what he has in his legs. I mean, are you using him like spot starting him? Are you going to protect him? How you want to handle this? I'm very interested to see how they do that.
Yeah.
Gareth Bale's an interesting one because Gareth Bale hadn't played a lot, man.
Mm-mm.
But
is he is MLS's version of Marcus Allen?
Gareth Bale could be really good in this situation, I think, because he hasn't played a ton. We think about older players, it's a matter of, how much mileage is on those legs as much as anything, in my opinion. And he doesn't have, I don't think he has as much mileage on those legs as a lot of guys do. So I'll be very interested to see, what he's able to do and how much he's able to give you consistently,
The reason that I brought up the Marcus Allen analogy, and this is, I guess, the Google search for today, is that when Al Davis was less than pleased with Marcus Allen, he sat him. And so coaches sitting him, Al Davis sitting him. And basically for 2 seasons, Marcus Allen with the Raiders did virtually nothing.
Yeah.
Then he goes to Kansas City. And because he did virtually nothing for 2 years, he helped the Chiefs out in a very, very competitive AFC West. Is that what we're getting with Gareth Bale, or because
it's a Michael Turner situation when he came to Atlanta?
There you go. So thank you for the local analogy, by the way.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So do we get Burner Turner? Do we get Marcus Allen, or do we get someone whose engine is so cold for not having been turned over in a long period of time that this turns into be a high am boondoggle for LAFC? I guess that's the layout here.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting to see how much he's got in those legs. I mean, this is a big proven opportunity for him as well to get warmed up for the World Cup. He'll be playing the United States in the World Cup with Wales. It's been a very whirlwind summer for him, but he spent so much time not playing. I think he's gonna have something in those legs. Now, how it all meshes together remains to be seen. I think they'll be fine. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a couple of games where, okay, they're just on the wrong page as they're getting into their rhythm.
Yeah.
Because that can happen. Even with the best players, it can happen where it just takes them a little bit of time to find that rhythm and chemistry, and it might take them a little bit, but I think they'll be fine. It's a bit of a surprise move. But they're trying to load up and go for a big trophy because they have their cup. Or they have their shield, excuse me. They have their supporter shield. They fell out of the U.S. Open Cup. I mean, as far as I'm concerned for them, it's like it is every year. It's MLS Cup or bust.
Yeah.
But the shield doesn't carry the same weight it used to because of the way the schedule is very, very, very unbalanced. And now if you're LAFC, you're going straight for MLS Cup. So show me what you can do.
I'm more concerned, and it was a point that you brought up. I'm more concerned about Chiellini than I am right now about Gareth Bale, because you got a guy who's 37, I believe, and he is in a very crowded back line. And we know when was one of the talking points that we've had, going into this season about all the transactions that were made that include Franco Escobar. And, is Chiellini going to just sit there and be thrown into the lineup because he's Chiellini, and you're anticipating, okay, I've got this guy with all this experience and I want him back there. And, Steve Cherundolo is going to sit there and it's like, okay, I have to play Chiellini because he's Chiellini, and then run him into the ground and then sit him until he's recharged and then put him back in. I don't know how you use him coming out of the blocks.
I certainly hope that no one's going to tell Steve Cherundolo that he has to use Chiellini. I think that'd be a mistake.
Yeah.
Play him where it fits. We talked to Nick about this, that Chiellini at this point could be an interesting sweeper. You got to give him some cover, though. Playing a flat back four with him feels like a really good way for him to get targeted.
Yeah.
But in the right situation, you give him a little bit of cover, he can be that guy who marshals your back line for sure. It's just going to be a matter of how you use him. And I think Steve Cherundolo is smart enough and a good figure that part out. And we'll see. We'll see what he does. I'm going to be very curious with Gareth Bale, and I'm excited about Gareth Bale and what he brings you, because we know that he has that ability, and it's a great weapon for a team that has struggled in the playoffs in the past.
Mm-hmm.
That can't get over the hump against Seattle. They've had playoff struggles. Even go back to my favorite one is losing to Damir Kreilach on a crane kick in the playoffs. That one never gets old. But now you've brought in a guy who has shown us that he can grab that moment by the throat in the biggest moments in the world. I mean, he just dragged his nation to the World Cup group stage. We've seen him literally win Champions Leagues before. We've seen him win Clásicos before. And as good as Carlos Vela is, Carlos Vela hasn't been that guy in MLS in the playoffs yet to snag that game by the scruff.
If you are physical with Carlos Vela, he doesn't know how to respond, or he has not responded in a way.
It's tough. It's tough to respond. And it's tough to be able to respond. And to your point, it's tough.
So how do they respond in situations like this? Because the key against LAFC, and we'll actually get into Atlanta United here in just a second, but the key to LAFC and going up against them in the postseason is if you are physical against that roster, especially the guys up front, they have yet to figure out how to respond in kind in a playoff situation. They haven't had that matching physicality when their players are getting bumped and jostled around and they're getting foul, and LAFC has not had that answer. That to me is one of the things I'm going to be looking for in a postseason where LAFC will be involved. Do they match the physical nature of an opponent, which has knocked them off their pins in the past, and how do Chiellini and Bale integrate into that? That's what I'm going to be looking forward to.
It's interesting for me because LAFC, one of my biggest complaints about them in 2018, 2019 was I didn't think they had balls. They were tough, but then they got punched in the face, and they fell into the category of everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Well, they would get punched in the face, and the response was just But I think this team, somewhere around the line in 2020, and then beyond that, I think they started to show that they've got that. They've got the cojones now. They've got an edge to them. I think it'll serve them really well in the playoffs. They'll be a tough out for anybody, and now you just gave them a new weapon that is specifically designed to take a moment by the scruff of the neck. So yeah, I think you're overthinking it if you're trying to find a reason for them not to be your favorite right now.
So we'll see how Carlos Vela is re-welcomed after the new deal has been put in place. Press conference later this afternoon. All right. After the show yesterday, of course, the news comes down, and the news is not good on Brooks Lennon. 6 to 8 weeks gone, and it just adds yet another individual to the list that we have seen when it comes to injuries this season. And it does come from anything in game. It happens pre-game where it involves slipping on a mat off the surface at BMO Field. And Jarrett, you made the point that it's almost where taking off of the scene from Major League, you can't just sacrifice the live chicken to help Serrano hit the curveball. It's to the point to where you're going to need the entire chicken farm to help Serrano hit the curveball now.
It feels like it. This one is, if I wasn't like sitting here with my head in my hands wondering what the hell is this team going through, it would genuinely be funny. Because what the actual hell? It's now multiple left backs, multiple right backs. Your midfield's been in and out. George Campbell was in and out for a while, although as we went over yesterday, I know people kind of go week to week deciding if they think George Campbell is a really good prospect or a complete waste of space. Hey, if it's hyperbole, everyone else is using hyperbole too. I guess I get to use it too, right? Because I'm seeing it all the time anyway. Some for thee, none for me. Ain't gonna fly on this one.
Right.
I mean, Joseph was out for a while. Araujo was out for a while. I know he had his KT tape, and you're wondering if his health is okay. I don't know about that. It's one of the reasons I think in hindsight I get even more and more pissed off at Thiago Almada for getting his 3-game suspension for bumping the official. I understand the frustration in that game. It was a very Joe Dickerson was embarrassingly bad in that game. I understand all that. You still bumped an official in a situation where you can't afford to lose anybody else, and you've proceeded to lose more and more people since then. And frankly, at this point, get me through the 2 New York games in one piece without losing someone else, please. Let's we have reset the counter of however many days without a workplace incident. Just get me through the New York games like that. And look, I know Gonzalo Pineda's tied into what he does. He firmly believes in what he does. Honestly, man, go into Red Bull Arena and just park it when the time comes. Like, I don't care. Go into Red Bull Arena and put bodies behind the ball and dare Red Bulls to play. Don't carry the water for the game. Make Red Bulls carry the water for the game. Get out of there with a point if that's what it takes, because you're missing bodies left and right now. And it's going to be a slog. You have a lot of games against teams above the playoff line and above you that you have to deal with in the foreseeable future. And it's going to be brutal, especially if you keep dropping people. It's got to also be killing morale at this point, because this wasn't even, it's not even like a training injury or, oh man, that's tough luck. Cause like he got tackled on a play and then just, wasn't able, and like it caused him problems. No, this was literally, he stepped on a mat, the kind of mat that you see all over the place. And then he twisted his knee and he's got an MCL issue. He's out 6 to 8 weeks. This is genuine. Like I said, if it wasn't so damn annoying and exhausting, it would be funny, because it is just like, it's like somebody decided, hey, what's the worst way you can cripple a sports team week after week after week? Well, here you go.
All right, here's the list, and I credit Jaime Ojeda for running this whole thing down. Brad Gazan, Dylan Castanera, Miles Robinson, all Achilles injuries. We'll add Brooks Lennon into it. This is not in any kind of chronological order. Brooks Lennon, knee, out 6 to 8. George Campbell with an adductor strain. He was out for a while. Caleb Wiley, thank you, DeAndre Yedlin, with an ankle injury. Andrew Gutman with his injury, and he's, I think, in the middle of his absence. I think they said 3 months. I think that we're halfway through it by now. Ronald Hernandez with an MCL. Santi Sosa with his handful of injuries and maladies. Franco Ibarra, Ozzy Alonso, Mateus Osechu, Luis Arujo, after he scores a goal, gets injured. Machop Chol, Joseph, Dom Dwyer. That is 16 injuries involving different Atlanta United players for different lengths of time. 35 players and 17 injuries if you include Jake Mulroney's injury before he was sent to Orlando. So 17 players that were a part of your roster this season, or who are a part of your roster, of the 36. That's batting 500. That's almost batting 500, and that's not a batting title that you want. This is.
I also want to nip it. I want to nip this in the bud too, because I've seen a lot of comments about like having Jake Mulroney available. Like, oh, you could have had him to play left back. Nah, man, he could play left wing back in a pinch, but he's not defensive enough. Jake Mulroney was playing left wing, guys. If Jake Mulroney was playing left back, we were in grim times.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you want, but Atlanta doesn't really play a 3-back system to have those wing backs, because he could do that in a pinch, but you're just going to be sacrificing something defensively in the process.
17 players out of a possible 36. That is absolutely ridiculous. You run out of adjectives to describe what has happened with this team this year.
It's the fact that it's just so many different things. Like the Achilles injuries are weird, because Achilles it's hard to predict Achilles injuries, because you take that reverse step back to push off, and it just pops, and it's almost like a timing belt, I guess. Mm-hmm. It's frustrating. For all the talk on turf, we've got other teams that use turf around the league that aren't having these same problems on turf. And they're not all muscle injury. They're ligament. It's, Caleb Wiley was a contact injury. Dr. Strain. It's just all over, and it's all over the place. And even the fact that, and the thing that kills me is I've seen folks talk about the oh, you sold your soul. You sold your soul to get a title in 2018. Like, dude, they were injured like a mother in 2018 too. In 2018, Miguel Almiron doesn't play in one of the playoff games because he physically can't. Mm-hmm. Greg Garza misses most of the year with a shoulder injury. Darlington Nagbe misses a huge chunk of the year. In fact, you end up with Eric Remedi playing for him and really emerging as a good player in that system. Remember, Eric Remedi in the playoffs puts Maxi Morales in his back pocket. He's probably still there unless Eric let him out. At least you still had a bunch of injuries in 2018. It wasn't like a magical, hey, that was a great year for injury luck. Like the Falcons, I can tell you, man, the Falcons in 2016 had absurdly good injury luck. The Atlanta Falcons were like, the injuries they had over the next few years were just hardcore regression, making up for the fact that 16 they were wildly healthy. But you had injuries in 18 for Atlanta United too. And unfortunately, you keep getting these injuries in these key spots, and it's exhausting. It'll just beat you down. It's like standing in the surf when there's a storm coming in. You're on the outskirts of a tropical storm, and you just keep getting hit by the waves over and over and over and over again. Eventually, it's just going to beat you down, and it's tougher and tougher to keep getting back up.
We'll get into the knock-on effects here in just a little bit, but news has come out from Atlanta United. They've extended the loan for Ronaldo Cisneros through the end of the 22 season. The club also holds a purchase option upon completion of the loan. Acquired on loan from Chivas on March 21st, 9 starts and 10 appearances, 4 goals. MLS Player of the Week for his Week 10 performance against the Chicago Fire on May 7. Fastest hat trick from the start of kickoff in club history at 36 minutes. So news from Atlanta United this morning that Ronaldo Cisneros, his loan has been extended throughout the remainder of the 2022 season. So cool piece of news there involving Ronaldo Cisneros. And one of the knock-on effects that we have here is what we saw and we talked about yesterday, involving players like Aiden McFadden being called up in an emergency by Atlanta United from the twos to be a part of the roster. And then in the emergency of emergencies, where Aiden is thrown into the start because of the injury to Brooks Lennon, you're dealing with Atlanta United right now, who has 2 matches in New York, Wednesday, Sunday. You have Atlanta United 2, who's coming from a match in Oakland, and we can get into that because I haven't had the chance to catch up with you about what happened with the game against the Oakland Roots on the weekend. Then midweek, they have to go from Oakland back here to Atlanta to Charleston and play the Battery at Patriots Point in the midweek. Then after Patriots Point, come back on the weekend and play one of the top teams in the Western Conference in El Paso Locomotive. Then after that, Birmingham comes to town in the midweek in a week's time from today. So you're dealing with all of the injuries involving key positions for Atlanta United, and then you have to rely on Jack Collison and his roster with the twos to help you out on the parent club side. And then the knock-on effect with Jack Collison and the twos because of what their schedule is right now. And so the schedule makers have not done you any favors either in USL Championship or Major League Soccer with this.
No, it's going to be tough. It's going to be, you're going to be looking like, hey, do we need to call up somebody on a short-term loan? Do we need to see if Noah Cobb's available again to short-term? Because you're almost to that blessed July 7th date, to where you can start bringing in guys. Brought in, 2 guys from Liga MX to supplement things and kind of reinforce, and we'll see what they can bring to the table. But I don't know who else you would grab, because I mean, it's great to have Aiden on that short-term loan. Aiden looked really good in a really tough situation the other night. But man, I don't know who else you grab at this point.
I know. Right now, to your point, you're just trying to get to 7, and
yeah,
and hoping that Purata hits the ground running.
I mean, do you go grab Highmar on a short term just to have more cover on the outside back?
Sonorgi, how about that?
Nelson Orji, if you need a center back, or Noah Cobb, either one. Highmar would be a guy for those outside back spots. I don't really know if you need it for other spots. Like if you felt like you needed more for the midfield, Robbie Mertz would be a candidate for that sort of thing. It's one of the annoying things to me about the structure between MLS clubs and their second clubs in USL, that like you can't just move guys back and forth. It's kind of some annoying BS that I hate about it. It feels like a wildly
I'll
unnecessary.
take the kind of out of it. It is just annoying BS.
Yeah, I mean, it's the fact that you can't just, guys are in your organization and you can't, put them on the shuttle. Like you used to do, with, watching people jump on the plane from Atlanta to Richmond with the Braves back in the day, or Atlanta Gwinnett now. The fact that you can't do that to supplement is very annoying. It's unnecessary red tape and rules, which is basically what MLS is full of, is a bunch of unnecessarily rules built upon rules in the first place, instead of tearing them down, instead of pulling down the cabling in the ceiling that's running the fiber cable. They just pushed it aside and put more of it up there and created a bigger mess.
And obviously we'll be keeping an eye on everything involving all of the movement, all of the players, all of this stuff. It is a very crammed schedule right now for Atlanta United and Atlanta United 2. And I want to see how the team responds to basically it was the match in Oakland. And for those that didn't quite catch the tail end of Salty on the weekend, I waited until after the twos match in Oakland to discuss both twos review and what happened with Atlanta and Toronto. And I'm still wondering days later what the center ref was staring at in the 74th minute to call a penalty in a 1-1 game where Grant Howard doesn't touch the charging Oakland Roots player. The guy stumbles and falls into Noah Cobb. Ball gets cleared away, and the center ref calls a penalty. Looking at it from even the TV angles that we had, I'm still wondering what the call was. And I'd love for, and this was a point that actually, and I'm going to cross the streams here, with what Jason has been doing with Andy Bunker yesterday on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. One of the questions that they had brought up as a part of their show was, should referees answer questions after match? Should they be available after matches or games, depending on the sport, to answer questions? And for me, the situation in Oakland would have been one of those, not just where, Jarrett, we sit there and we hand a piece of paper or we hand a question to the assigned reporter who then writes the question out and then hands it to the official to get a handwritten response. No, this is having officials responsible and having them in front of some kind of microphone situation where they're forced to answer questions about what they called and why things were done a certain way. I think that this would be an example of, I want to have some kind of accountability here in what happened with that incident, and then have to shake that off, turn around quickly, fly back across the country, get settled, have regen, hit a bus, go to Charleston, come back, regen, maybe a day to get ready for El Paso. I mean, there are so many knock-on effects here and so many things that have to be considered, but I think that accountability with officials is definitely one of those things. As I've gone off on a tangent and I'm trying to draw it back here, it's just one of the things that I think in situations like we saw with Atlanta United too, and with what we see with Atlanta United sometimes, where you want to go further than just handing the piece of paper. You want to have a full accounting for what happened in a particular incident.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think, like, the only time in my recent memory that I can remember an official doing that was, oh God, who was the umpire in the imperfect game that Armando Galarraga threw?
Oh, the umpire at first base who?
Yes, Jim Joyce.
Yeah.
Jim Joyce, very well respected umpire, very highly thought of. Was very highly thought of when he was umpiring. It does suck that he and Galarraga are forever tied by that mistake. But he got in front of the media and apologized because of the scale of the moment as much as anything in that instance. That's a very unique situation. You're not going to see that all the time, but he apologized in the moment of, I cost that kid his moment, yada, yada, yada. Not incorrect. But very nice of him, I guess, if you're looking for consolation, that he was willing to do that. But it's tough because it's a position where they're given that freedom to make those decisions, and if they want to answer questions, they can. If they don't have to. Now, it does put a lot of it already puts a lot of stress and strain on the position itself. So we'll see. I don't know that you'll ever get a situation where you have officials like talking after the game. I mean, baseball has instituted it now where the umpire has to like announce the call after a replay, which is better than when it used to be. They used to just come off the replay, meekly motion, safe or out or whatever, and then go back to their job and get yelled at, and coaches would get ejected because you're not supposed to argue after the review, but they still would because, it's just one of those unwritten rules. I don't know that you'll ever have a situation where they are going to be asked to do that. I don't know that they would ever agree to that, honestly.
All right, now that we're past the half-hour mark, traditionally on Tuesdays, we would have Dylan Butler in to discuss everything that's been going on in the past weekend for Major League Soccer. But since Dylan is not with us today, and it's Jarrett and myself, I'm going to cast Jarrett in the role of Dylan Butler today. We're going to go back over the weekend that was in Major League Soccer, and I guess, Jarrett, we can do it cliffhanger style. Like the Price is Right, and this is what I've done with Nico Moreno in the past when it comes to weekend previews. Basically, if there's a game that you want to talk about, you yell stop, and we'll talk about it. By the way, there was no Cali Classico because of power issues at Stanford Stadium, and so that has been postponed until September 24th, I believe. So one game that did not get translated over into Picks of the Week was Cali Classico, unless we want to hold it over until late September. So going back over the results from the weekend, we talked about Atlanta and Toronto. But if there's anything else that you want to discuss when it comes to Atlanta and Toronto, feel free. Friday night football, FC Cincinnati beats Orlando City by the score of 1-0. And FC Cincinnati did that as a plus 131 home favorite. Noon local kick on Saturday, Seattle over Sporting Kansas City by the score of 3-0. No surprise that Seattle got the win. Took them a little while to get the engine warm, but they end up getting 3 on the board, winning that one as a minus 123. Nashville over DC United. Final score there was 3-1. Nashville, by the way, Jarrett, was a road dog going into this match. Don't ask me why. They were a road dog going to DC as a plus 189. DC United was a plus 150. Nashville gets the win by the score of 3-1. Montreal over Charlotte by the score of 2-1. Montreal was a minus 111, getting the win there. Inter Miami. I guess we can talk about this one. Inter Miami
Yes, we can.
The rebirth of the Adrian Heath era in Minnesota by winning 2-1 as a plus 147. They were a home favorite. Minnesota United was a plus 170. So proceed, sir.
Indiana Vasilev. Statesborough's own Indiana Vasilev, freed from the confines of lower division English soccer. Been looking better, I thought, personally. And looking more comfortable. And Minnesota had a late lead in that game, actually. Felt like, hey, this is be a good win for Minnesota. Like, Miami's a functioning team. Like, yeah, I feel like as much as we look at the loss to Toronto, like that win for Atlanta over Miami was good. That was a good win. Yeah, Miami was down to 10, but you struck early. You weathered a little bit of pressure from them, and you forced them into some tough situations because they're missing Gregory. But Miami's not a bad team, y'all. They're better than I thought they would be, just considering all the sanctions they had on them. The depth is where they're getting hit the hardest, but when they're healthy, they can punch. Man, I would be interested to talk to people from Montreal. Like, hey, would you rather have lost that game straight up or lost it the way you did, where you gave up 2 goals to Indiana Vasilev in like the last 5 minutes?
But good to see Indiana Vasilev get a piece of history. So that was very, very cool to see. But once again, hey, Minnesota, I believe it's commonly referred to as you getting what you paid for. And you've decided to stick with Adrian Heath again. And this is so it was agreed to.
We talk about it. We talk about Atlanta United and like the morale of like the losses and the injuries. I'm genuinely curious, like, how is it in Minnesota? Because they don't have the injuries, but they've had some just gut punching performances this year. And it's just kind of been like treading water and not treading water particularly well. Kind of feels like you're doing a thing where Atlanta was so Joseph centric for a while, where, hey, if Minnesota gets a good performance from Reynoso, they're going to be in a lot of games. If they don't get a performance from Reynoso, they are not going to be in a lot of games. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, excellent phraseology there, sir. Houston knocks off Chicago Fire 2-0. They were even money going in. Part of the Copa Tejas was absolutely stupid, crazy nuts. Austin and FC Dallas at Q2. Dallas had a 2-0 lead on the road in the second half at Austin. By the time the match was over, they did not have a 2-goal lead in Austin at Q2. It ended up as a 2-2 draw. RSL and Columbus, it was a goalless draw at Rio Tinto. Portland, as a minus 108 home favorite, beats Colorado by the score of 3-0. That one was a bit of a surprise to me as well as your late game on Saturday. And I give Michael Parkhurst full credit, because in fantasy this past week, I was going up against El Capitan. and he had Bill Tuiloma on his roster, and I was like, okay. Sure enough, Tuiloma was the guy that ended up beating me. So, full credit to Michael Parkhurst for adding Bill Tuiloma, knocking me off in fantasy as well. That's your Saturday games. Sunday, LAFC and Red Bulls, 2-0. LAFC gets the win, 2 goals, and I want to say 3 minutes. And LAFC gets the win. And I think that in those games that we see at the bank, if you open the door to momentum for LAFC, they seem to take advantage of it at home. And it's like the field almost tilts, and you see LAFC work their way through and get a 2-0 win over Red Bulls. But, obviously, we talked about it yesterday with one of the Neli not being available for the match for Atlanta United. You had Aaron Long and Luquinhas in health and safety protocols, so they did not make the trip to Los Angeles. Will they be available for this match against Red Bulls? Against Atlanta United? It's going to be things to keep an eye on going forward. We talked about the ending of Philadelphia and NYC. Philadelphia winning 2-1. And the game going 100 minutes by the time it was finished, and then New England putting up a clunker in Vancouver as a plus 249 for your 90-minute draw. They were a road favorite at a plus 148 going to Vancouver. Goalless draw. And
it took a Herculean bit of goalkeeping, too, to keep it that way, because Vancouver was peppering the hell out of them. And I can't figure out Vancouver, man.
No.
Vancouver went and got their teeth kicked in by Seattle.
Yeah.
Coming off the international break. Then put together a good win. Then should have beaten New England at home. And granted, it's New England at home. New England's literally going across the country. Again, the casual MLS road trip is the equivalent of when European teams absolutely piss themselves at the idea of having to travel to Eastern Europe. Oh, we've got 2 games away. We got to get ready for this one. We have to go to Belarus. We have to go to Cyprus, and we have to do this. Oh my God, let's get a Sherpa. We got to load everything up, leave a letter for the kids and the wife, let them know we love them just in case we die on the way and we catch dysentery. Dude, that's a routine road trip in MLS. I will never get over it.
And that is another part of, so you say, yeah, you bring things back full circle. When we had the discussion in the opening kickoff about Insigne and possibly Criscito and Gareth Bale being a part of the discussion and Chiellini being a part of this discussion, how will those guys react to the travel here in Major League Soccer? And I think that's something that has to be managed with all 4 of them.
I would assume, honestly, that they're going to say the same thing a lot of guys have said when they come to MLS is this league is faster and tougher than I thought it was, but it doesn't mean they can't play it. It doesn't mean that they're not good or that they don't know how to play in it or that they're bad or that anything's bad. But it's one of those things I think we've heard a lot from people of, hey, this league's tougher than we thought it was. It's more physical. Draft's going to be tough. And yeah, if Gareth Bale decides, hey, man, I need to rest a little bit, I wonder if you do have Steve Cherundolo kind of pick his spots with him. Mm-hmm. Definitely want to probably pick your spots with Chiellini, but I'm very interested to see what the response is from them as well, and because it's usually just a response of, yeah, this league's tough. It's tougher than we thought it was. We saw Rooney say it when he was in DC.
Did somebody ask Blaise? You thought?
Yeah, but Blaise Matuidi was too busy getting run past by everybody. The league's fast.
By Santi Sosa.
It's an obscene amount of speed in this league, and it's a grueling league because of all the travel you have to do. You're playing on different surfaces. You're playing in different environments. I'll never forget Jeff Larentowicz talking about playing in New England when New England didn't have much of a crowd in 2017, 2018, the end of the Jay Heaps era and the Brad Friedel era, where he talked about, and I don't remember his exact quote. I don't even know if I still have it recorded somewhere, where he talked, to paraphrase Jeff's comments, that, sometimes it was tough to get up for those games on the road because there was no crowd. Like, at least if there's a rabid crowd against you, it's something to feed off of. When there was no crowd, it was tough sometimes to find anything to feed off of. I mean, you'll get some of those cavernous experiences like that at Gillette Stadium, but you might go to Austin, and Austin's a bit wild. I've seen fans in Portland talk about that it's not what it was right now, and they blame ownership and they blame kind of the stagnant nature of things, which y'all were in the cup last year. I don't want to hear it on that front. I understand this year that, if you feel that way this year, but last year y'all made the cup. Come on. But it's a lot of weird environments. It's a lot of travel. It's a lot of tough weather you're playing in as well. John, you're from California. What's weather like in LA in the summer?
Depends on what particular section of the area code or county that you're in. If you go inland, it's 11 billion degrees. As you work your way,
San Jose-ish.
Yeah, I mean, it's like more desert. It's like the more east you go, the more desert you get to, and the higher the temps and all that kind of stuff. And this is due east. This is not northeast where you head toward the mountains and it's like oh, there's mountains here and there's actual temperature ranges and things like that. So basically, if I was to plant you down in, say, we'll put you say right at the intersection of the 5 and the 91 freeway. We'll put you right in the town of Artesia, which is near Lakewood, which is where I was born, right on the LA County, Orange County line. So we'll put you right there where the old Ascot Speedway was. If you go due east and you're going inland, it's going to get hotter as you proceed closer and closer to the desert. If you go north and east, then you're getting into the mountains after about an hour or so, and then you actually have temperature ranges. If you go north and west up the 5 and you're working your way toward if you're working your way toward our friends at Central Valley Fuego there in Fresno, you're going to get hot. It's going to be triple digits, as you work your way in. But if you work your way west toward the coast, and I mean literally, this could be a span of 5 or 10 miles from that particular site, you could get marine layer in the morning. You could have marine layer in the morning when you wake up. Marine layer blows off by, say, 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning when the show is over. Then, if you decide you want to go play a round of golf on the coast after the marine layer has blown in and then proceeded to go away, by 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the marine layer could come back. So it is a petri dish of weather experimentation when you are in Los Angeles. You literally could go 15 miles one way or another, and it could be completely and totally different. The coast, you could be wearing a sweatshirt. You could be going another 15 miles from the Orange County, LA County line, and you could be in like desert conditions in the 90s and going, oh my God, I hope my air conditioner works. So it literally is as random as humanly possible, depending on the day, depending on I forgot to mention the Santa Fe winds if they're coming in from the desert and creating fire situations too. So yeah, so if you're trying to predict the weather in Los Angeles, I give them a boatload of credit more than your average meteorologist because it can get downright wacky, sir.
So you're playing your home games there.
Yeah.
Long answer short. Long answer short. I mean, it's chaotic.
Yes.
Like you have a lot of weird weather situations in MLS, especially if you end up playing in the deep south and anywhere Texas going east. You have a lot of travel. It's physical. You don't have the squad depth. It's a unique situation. So I look forward to hearing what they have to say, and not in like a snarky way, honestly, but like I'm excited to see like what their reaction to it is, because the reactions have changed over time, and I'm interested by it.
What else is on your mind, sir, before you commence with the rest of your day?
Oh man,
open-ended question before you go.
Yeah, I know, right? I believe we have U.S. Open Cup coming up. Yes.
I believe we're getting there. Please.
We have it this week because yes, we do tomorrow night. We'll talk about it more tomorrow morning when we're hopefully back to normal. But Orlando and Nashville is the last round of the quarterfinals.
Right. And as of right now, Orlando City is a plus 133, and the juice box is 90-minute draws a plus 210. Nashville is a plus 204. And the winner of that one, that fills out your final four. And I'm looking forward to seeing Sporting work their way to Sacramento to Hard Health to take on the Sacramento Republic. I'm just looking forward to that one on the left-hand side of the bracket.
Yeah, it's an interesting end of the bracket here between Orlando and Nashville. I don't know how to peg that one because like Nashville goes and beats DC. Like, okay, great, man. DC's got problems. Like DC is just, I think, at times kind of limping this season out. Red Bulls get the win on in their last U.S. Open Cup game. They win the Hudson River Derby. Then they go lose in LA with really tough circumstances, having to travel 2,000 miles and missing guys and on short rest. And then, like you said, in the West, I mean, Kansas City is doing exactly what I would do, and what I think clubs like them should do, which is they're all in on winning this, and now they find themselves in a semifinal against the USL Championship team. And it's no disrespect to Sacramento, who's been very good.
Yeah.
Sacramento has taken many a scalp, but you're gonna see Kansas City favored in that game, and it's a great opportunity for them to, in a year that's kind of lost, go get a trophy. It'd be great if it was Atlanta in this situation. And I don't really want to revisit the Nashville game because I'll get mad again. But you were in a situation where you were up 2-0 on the road in Nashville with a chance to really get a good push through to the U.S. Open Cup. Which, hey man, if Kansas City can pick up a U.S. Open Cup trophy, that's going to make everything feel a lot better.
Mm-hmm. At Jarrett_Smith on Twitter, he will be keeping an eye on things in his atmosphere and be ready to rock and roll again on Wednesday morning. Jarrett, I will be taking care of odds and ends and all the things left unsaid. But first, I have to read a promo. So here is said promo. A Lemonized service for odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go, and it is a Lemonized service. QR code, by the way, is actually over my shoulder, but since this is audio only, you can't see it. Just take my word for it. It does exist. Deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos, they've created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pets, cigarettes, and food. Realtors and property managers use a Lemonized service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. And it is a turnkey process, makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers. Kind of the environment. We like that these days. A very green way of going about getting rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than Febreze or our favorite masking agents, because that's why they call them a masking agent. You reach under the sink, you grab it, you spray it in the air. That's all you're doing. You're just masking the odor. You're not attacking the problem all the way down to the molecule like Lemonize's proven scientific formula does. Pricing very, very easy. One of two ways, either by the cubic foot or parts per million, to come up with a price that is affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. To get more information, catch up with our friends at Lemonize. Here's how you do it. Go to their website, lemonize.com, but do us a favor here at SDH. Go /Atlanta after the .com so they know what part of the world that you are reaching out to them from. So, your full homework assignment, ELIMINIZE.com/Atlanta, lemonize.com/Atlanta for odor-free, clean, fresh air. Lemonize service, proud sponsors of everything SDH. Now, let's get you into everything else going on in the world of soccer/football. Most of it is going to be from stuff that we know from overseas. And Chelsea, obviously, very, very busy. And according to our friends at the Daily Telegraph, they might be in the mood for a double swoop of Raheem Sterling and Nathan Ake. So they have open talks over those two. We now have a little bit more background on why Petr Cech left his role as technical and performance advisor at Chelsea. Made it clear to the club that they should have kept Romelu Lukaku for another season rather than loan him back to Inter. And that move should be confirmed this week. So now we've got a little bit more background. Beck is gone. Granovskaya is gone. Now Petr Cech is gone at Chelsea. It is all Thomas Tuchel and Todd Boehly right now. Wayne Rooney's long-term agent is now under investigation by the Football Association, by the FA, for secretly paying staff and player wages at Derby County. I get this. I understand it. But I also understand, and at least I would hope that the FA understands, that there is a certain context that could be allotted for here. When Derby County is in such a sad a shape as it is, and you have someone who is willing to go the extra mile and sit there and go, look, I got your back. You know, we'll pay your wages. You know, we'll make sure that you can put food on your table, and that you can get paid what you deserve, and then probably something where the agent and Rooney would sit there and say, "Tell you what, we'll front them the money. Just come ahead and give it to us on the back." And that to me is what I'm looking at here. And frankly, if I'm the FA, I may sit there and just give Wayne Rooney and his agent, a piece of paper sitting there saying, "Don't do it again." But I would also hope that the FA would understand, look, this team was in such bad shape that I had to help them out. So I give Wayne Rooney and his agent full stand-up guy credit here for doing something like that. If the FA wants to investigate, fine, I understand it because of the idea of, undue influence and what have you and all that kind of stuff later on down the line. But seriously, the way that I would look at this is flat out, first and foremost, they were helping out guys who were stuck in a bad situation. So I don't know. Write up a piece of paper saying, "Don't do it again." Hand it to the agent. Hand it to, Wayne Rooney saying, "Don't do this again, guys." And then, you work from there. But I understand why the FA is doing it, but frankly, it should be nothing more than just a slap on the wrist or a waving of the index finger to sit there and say, "Don't do this again. Don't do this again." And so don't do it again. But considering what Darby County's state of play is right now, I completely understand it. So just to give you a bit of an update from our friends at the Derby Telegraph, that Wayne Rooney is out. He asked to be relieved of his coaching duties. So local businessman David Close has emerged as the new favorite to complete the takeover. Chairman of the Derbyshire-based Close Developments Limited, which has completed the purchase of Pride Park from Mel Morris. And so now they're pressing ahead with the full takeover. Remember that Pride Park was one of the biggest stumbling blocks in all of this, is that Mel Morris, he wanted not just for the club, but for Pride Park. And that was one of the bigger stumbling blocks in all of this. Friday, Pride Park deal was announced, and that was when Wayne Rooney stepped down as manager, completing the purchase of Pride Park. Say that 10 times fast. Klaus said that Klaus Developments, proud to announce, successfully purchased the company that owned Pride Park from Mel Morris. Close have issued an interim loan to the club, which will enable Derby County to start next season and trade whilst a deal to purchase the club is concluded. Close also confirmed that they will submit a bid to purchase Derby County Football Club. Quantuma, the administrators, confirmed the sale of the club's grounds, said talks were ongoing with Close Development. Quantuma puts out their own statement saying that they're very pleased, all the normal stuff that you see in a situation like this. Joint administrators welcome the statement from Close, confirmed that they're looking for it. All parties recognize the need to conclude a sale of business and assets of the club as a matter of urgency. The EFL has welcomed the development. David Close said it was inconceivable to him that Derby County risked falling away as he purchased the stadium and continues his bid to finalize the takeover. A lifelong Derby supporter. He had another statement as well. Once again, a lot of boilerplate stuff that was there, but it looks like David Close is that much closer to being owner of everything at Derby County, lock, stock, and barrel, as they are in League One. So now the odds have been put up for who could be the next manager at Derby County. Assistant to Wayne Rooney, Liam Rossignol is the early favorite at 4-6, courtesy of our friends at Betfair. Sean Dyche at 4-1, Frank Lampard at 6-1, Steve Cooper at 8-1, Steve McLaren 10-1, John Terry 12-1. All those except for Dyche and Rossignol are currently employed, so we'll see what happens there. But it looks like Derby County's long nightmare might be that much closer to being over, thank God. Now, other news as we go through everything. Daily Mirror have been told it will cost them £70 million to sign Ajax forward Antony. Erik ten Hag wanted to go back to his former club to grab the Brazil international, but that valuation has thrown any deal into doubt. Christian Eriksen is going to take his time when it comes to who he's going to play for next season. Manchester United has an offer. Brentford is still interested in bringing him back. Leicester City is now interested. And so Jason Nix, keep an eye out for that. So Leicester City now in the mix as well for Christian Eriksen. And so Eriksen seems to be mulling over an offer, as the papers are saying, overseas. Chelsea is going to continue working with Matthijs de Ligt on a move. on a £200,000-a-week wage, one of the reasons why Juve is open to letting him go for around £70 million. Ousmane Dembele, with a couple of days left, he'll decide on his future in the next 72 hours. Once again, another target for Chelsea, one of the most sought-after players in the summer transfer window. So we'll see when Dembele makes his decision where the other dominoes fall. It's like, okay, who follows Dembele now that Dembele would go to Chelsea if this does happen in the next 72 hours? Those other holes that are created by Ousmane Dembele, who goes where after Dembele on July 1st? That's another question here. Newcastle seems to have made reported contact with Leeds United over signing Rafinha, so add Newcastle to the Leeds United / Rafinha sweepstakes. Robert Lewandowski's desire to play for Barca is to show he's better than Karim Benzema, says Lewandowski's former agent Cezary Kucharski. Nothing like if Barca has Lewandowski and they figure out the financials there. Real Madrid has Modric and Benzema. That could make for some really cool matchups twice a year in La Liga, so we'll keep an eye on that. Looks like Real Madrid and Liverpool are now going to be going head-to-head in the summer for Jude Bellingham as their priority target, working their way in the summertime. Vincent Tan was asked about Gareth Bale, and he said that what LAFC had offered was far more than he could. They thought that they were competitive early on, but Tan, in an interview with TalkSport, said that with all of the endorsement deals and all the other things that Bale could get in the United States, they couldn't quite compete with that. I'm paraphrasing, but that was what Vincent Tan said in his interview with TalkSport over his pursuit of Gareth Bale. Other player news on the board, Gabriel Jesus, looks like he's taking a medical currently for Arsenal, so it looks like that £45 million offer for Manchester City might be finalized sooner rather than later. Arsenal have also increased their bid for Lisandro Martinez to £34 million as they look to get to the finish line before Manchester United does in dealing with Ajax. Chelsea, once again, they've made their first move to try to get Raheem Sterling. West Ham United have approached Villarreal about signing Arnaud Danjuma. Celtic is going to seek at least £15 million if Atletico Madrid firm up their interest in signing the Croat right back Josip Juranovic. And Daily Record says Juve have agreed to pay Aaron Ramsey €4 million just to get him off the books this summer, a year before his contract is set to expire at Juve. Celtic boss Ange Postecoglou is not going to rush through any transfers this summer just to sign guys. He wants to land the right player. Rangers talisman Alfredo Morelos reportedly sees a move to Sevilla as, quote, a very good option this summer. And also on the board, Rangers and Celtic are chasing after Motherwell youngster Bailey Rice, and Rangers are targeting Antonio Kolak from PAOK, but PAOK has said that he's not going to leave for anything less than £2.6 million. That is it for your Tuesday. And so when we come back tomorrow, it is the midweek whip around. We have a midweek whip around, people. It is a 2-match week, a double match week, which also means that you have to set your fantasy teams. So set your fantasy teams. Hopefully we'll have input from the Jason Wright Agency. And Chris Wright, by the way, Chris Ashley, unbeaten run in fantasy has been tremendous. And as I mentioned in the show, yes, I lost to Michael Parkhurst this past week, and I am mid-table, as I always seem to be. But Chris Ashley seems to be the man to beat this year at the midway point. He is doing tremendously well when it comes to fantasy. Follow along on all your fantasy notes at the Jason Wright Agency, at Jason Wright with a W-A-G-E-N on Twitter, and also follow the Jason Wright Agency on Facebook as well. And you get all your fantasy information posted in a double match week. Tomorrow, it is the midweek whip around tomorrow. It is a lot of stuff going on in the midweek that we will discuss, and it looks like Alex Chilowitz will be the man in the middle for Red Bulls and Atlanta United also on your Wednesday. So for Jarrett at Jarrett_Smith, for Jason at Longshoe, I am at OSG Nelson. Thanks for hanging out with us here at Soccer Down Here. We'll be back on your Wednesday. So play it safe, everybody. Be safe today, and we'll catch up with you tomorrow. Mucho platio.